Welcome to this channel. Mau belajar bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris dengan cara yang seru, santai, dan mudah dipahami? You're in the right place. Belajar kosakata dan ekspresi sehari-hari. Learn daily vocabulary and expressions. Dengarkan contoh situasi nyata. Listen to real-life examples. Subscribe sekarang dan nyalakan notifikasi. Let's learn together and have fun.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know how sometimes you're kind of scrolling through travel blogs and maybe dreaming about where to go next? Or maybe you're just interested in how people connect, like across different cultures.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that kind of curiosity is pretty much why we're here today. We're taking a quick look, but an insightful one, I think, into a beginner Indonesian language lesson.
Right?
Specifically focusing on, basic greetings and asking that question we all get asked, so what do you do?
That's right. And you shared some really interesting bits from the absolute beginner S1 S tag for what's your job in Indonesia lesson notes.
Yeah.
And what's quite surprising actually is how even these really basic language points, these exchanges, can tell us so much about interaction, maybe even worldview.
Absolutely. So our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to pull out some key Indonesian words, get a feel for a couple of basic grammar ideas, and maybe the most interesting part.
What's that?
See, with asking what's your job actually reveals about Indonesian culture itself.
Okay.
So, let's get into it.
Let's do it. I think the best place to start is, well, the core dialogue they provide. It's this short, pretty everyday conversation between two guys, Edie and Yono. Just a very natural little back and forth.
Exactly. Okay, so here it is. Edie?
Mas Yono.
Yono.
Edie, kerjanya apa?
Yono, kerja saya di bank. Mas Edie kerjanya apa?
Edie, saya guru di sekolah dasar.
Yono.
Yo.
Wah, begitu sekarang liburan.
Edie, ya betul.
And just so everyone's following along, the English translation is basically Edie, Yono.
Yono, yes.
Edie, what is your job?
Yono, I work at a bank. What do you do, Edie?
Edie, I'm an elementary school teacher.
Yono, oh, I see. Is it your vacation now?
Edie, yes, that's right.
See, it looks, pretty simple on the surface. But even just in that, 6 or 7 lines, you can already spot some really important building blocks for Indonesian. Let's zoom in on some key words. First one is ya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about as simple as you can get, really. It just means yes. Technically, it's an adverb, but here it's just, a simple yes, confirmation. Okay. Then we get kerja. Now, this one's interesting. The notes say it can be two things.
That's right. It can be a verb meaning to work, or it can be a noun meaning work or job.
Okay. So you see it in the question, kerjanya apa? What is your job? Where it's kind of like the noun job.
Exactly. And then Yono replies, kerja saya di bank. My work is in a bank. Or you could just as easily say, I work at a bank. So the meaning slides between the noun and the verb concept.
That's pretty efficient, actually. One word doing double duty.
It really is. Very economical. Next up is the place, bank.
Familiar one.
Yes. Thankfully for English speakers, it's exactly the same. Just a noun meaning, a bank.
And that's where Yono works, a bank. Then Edie says he's a guru.
Yep. Guru means teacher, another noun. Pretty straightforward.
Okay. And then Yono asks, sekarang liburan. So sekarang.
Sekarang means now. It's an adverb. Tells you about time. When something's happening.
Got it. And liburan?
That's the noun for vacation or holiday.
Right. And Edie wraps it up with ya betul. Ya is yes. What about betul?
Betul is interesting. It's what's called a stative verb. It describes a state like true or correct. So he's basically saying, yes, that's right, or yes, that's true.
Okay. So just from that little exchange, we've already got some core words for talking about jobs and timing.
Exactly. And the lesson notes then give some handy example sentences, which is good because you see the words used in slightly different ways.
Yeah, let's look at a few. They help connect things like, yeah, sama.
Meaning, yes, I want it. Simple use of yeah.
Then, kerjanya di mana? That uses kerjanya again.
Right, but this time in a question, where's your job? And it introduces di mana, which means where. So you see how you start building questions.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Then there's a longer one. Bank BCA adalah bank swasta terbesar di Indonesia.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a bit more complex. BCA Bank is the largest private bank in Indonesia. It just shows bank used twice in a real world kind of context helps it stick.
Definitely. And a more practical one. Bank ini tutup.
The bank is closed. Again, everyday use of bank.
And for Edie's job, guru saya pintar sekali.
My teacher is very smart, so you see guru used with saya for my teacher.
Okay. And linking back the time. O kemana sekarang?
Where do you want to go now? Reinforces sekarang for now.
And connecting to the vacation idea. Liburan saya mulai.
Now vacation started shows another way to use liburan.
And betul again. Jawabannya betul.
The answer is true, or the answer is correct.
And finally, just that simple agreement again. Ya betul.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, those examples really do flesh out how the words work.
They do. And then the lesson pivots to a couple of really key grammar points. This little suffix, yeah, and the preposition di. Understanding these is, well, pretty fundamental.
Okay. Yeah, the notes call it extremely versatile and say there's no direct English equivalent. That sounds potentially confusing.
It can seem that way at first, yeah. But it mainly does two things. First, it often shows possession like are, your, his, her, or its.
So kerjanya could mean your job, his job, or her job.
Exactly. It depends entirely on the context. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking to? Context is everything with chanya.
Okay, that makes sense. Context dependency. But what's the other main job it does?
The other thing is it can indicate definiteness. Sort of like our word the.
Ah, so Indonesian doesn't have a word for the.
Not a separate word, no. Sometimes this inya ending steps in to make a noun specific. So kerjanya could also sometimes mean the job.
Wow, okay, so it does possession and definiteness. That's a lot for one little ending.
It is, that's why they call it versatile, and yet it can trip up beginners. You have to get a feel for it.
So back in the dialogue, when Edie asks Yono, kerjanya apa, how do we know for sure he means your job and not the job?
Well, in that specific interaction, because he's asking Yono directly, Mas Yono, the context makes it overwhelmingly clear he means your job. The possessive meaning is the natural one there.
Got it. Okay. That clears that up a bit. Now, the other point was D, the preposition. Notes say it's like at or in for general location.
Yes, that one's a bit more straightforward, thankfully. In kerja saya, di bank just means in a bank or at a bank. It covers that general sense of location.
So D tells you where.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Where something is or where something happens. Super useful little word.
Okay. So we've dug into some vocab, a couple of key grammar bits, but the part that really caught my eye in these notes was the cultural insight section. This whole idea of sizing you up. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. And this is where, language learning gets really fascinating because it goes beyond just words.
Yeah.
The notes explain that in Indonesia, it's actually quite common for people you've just met, even strangers, to ask about your job, maybe other personal details, quite early on.
Which, let's be honest, for someone from, say, the US or the UK, might feel a little abrupt, maybe even intrusive.
That's precisely the cultural contrast the notes point out. The idea of what's considered private information can be quite different.
So when an Indonesian asks about your job straight away, it's not them being nosy.
Generally, no, not at all. It's usually meant as perfectly normal, even polite, casual conversation. It's a standard way to kick things off.
Like how we might talk about the weather, maybe.
Yeah.
But just a bit more personal from our perspective.
Kind of, yeah. The notes use that phrase sizing up socially. Asking about work gives them a little context about your daily life, maybe your social standing. It helps find common ground. It's about placing you in a friendly way within the social landscape.
Huh. That's a really interesting lens. It totally reframes the interaction, doesn't it?
It does.
What feels like a personal question here is just standard operating procedure for small talk there.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about our own cultural defaults, what we think is okay to ask.
Exactly. And the notes really emphasize that talking about your job is considered pretty tame in Indonesia. It's not seen as digging for sensitive info in most contexts. Much different from some cultures where you might wait until you know someone better.
Wow. It just underlines how crucial that cultural context is when you're learning a language.
Absolutely. It's not just grammar rules and vocab lists. It's understanding the why behind the what.
Yeah. Knowing that kerjanya apa is often just friendly chat starter can totally change how you hear it and how you respond if you're ever there.
Yeah.
Could definitely help avoid awkwardness or misinterpretation.
For sure. Build better connections.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive into this beginner Indonesian lesson. We pulled out some really useful basic words for jobs, kerja, bank, guru.
We also looked at that really adaptable, ending, how it signals possession or definiteness. Context is key there.
Right, and we clarified D, the preposition for at or in a location.
And maybe the biggest takeaway, that cultural insight. Asking about work in Indonesia is often just normal, friendly small talk, part of that social sizing up, reflecting a different view on privacy than some of us might have.
Yeah. This whole look at just a simple beginner lesson, it really shows there's so much more to language than just the mechanics. It's like opening a little window onto another way of thinking, interacting. Well said. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. Think about how those first contact conversations differ elsewhere. Not just Indonesia, but other places you know or have visited. What do those differences have? What's okay to ask, what's not? Tell us about what different societies value. And maybe more pointedly, what assumptions do we carry around about privacy and personal questions? It's amazing how a simple language point can spark those bigger questions about connecting, isn't it?
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.